Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how you can install and set up Flutter on your Mac operating system using Visual Studio Code. I'm also going to show you how you can run your Flutter app on iOS emulator and the Android emulator. So let's see how we can do it. So first of all, open your favorite browser and search for install Flutter. And the first link which will appear here will be from docs.flutter.dev /get started /install. So I'm going to click on this link. If you land to the home page of docs.flutter.dev, then click on get started here and you will be able to see these options. We need to choose the Mac OS. And as I mentioned, I'm going to show you how you can set up Flutter for Android as well as iOS with the Android and iOS emulators. So let's see them one by one. So first of all, I'm going to click on iOS option here. And then here it's going to show you the hardware and software requirements. And when you scroll down a little, it's going to show you what tools you will require in order to run your Flutter app on, let's say, the iOS emulator, right? Because we have selected the iOS option. As you can see here, we need the Xcode here, and then you can optionally also install this tool. I'm not going to show you this tool, but I'm going to show you how you can set up Xcode and run your Flutter app using the iOS app. So we are going to proceed with Xcode installation in few seconds, but let's scroll down a little here. And here you will be able to see text editor or integrated development environment. So you can see Visual Studio Code, Android Studio, and IntelliJ IDEA. As I mentioned, we are going to do it on Visual Studio Code. So I'm expecting you already have installed Visual Studio Code on your Mac operating system because this installation is really easy, right? When I scroll down a little, here I can see install the Flutter SDK option. Here you have two options. You can install the Flutter SDK using Visual Studio Code, or you can install the Flutter SDK using this zip file option. So you can choose any option from here, but I recommend you to choose this option which says download and install, and we are going to proceed with the installation of Flutter SDK using the direct download and install option. You have two options here. First one is for Intel processors and other one is for Apple Silicon chips, for example M1, M2 or M3 chip. I have a MacBook which support Apple Silicon, so I'm going to click on this option, and once you click on this option, this zip file is going to download. So it's around 1.1 gigabyte file, so just wait for a few seconds until this file is downloaded. And once this zip file is downloaded, you can see it will look like this. Now when you scroll down a little in this documentation, it recommends us to create this development folder under your home directory, and then it recommends us that we extract our Flutter zip file in this development folder. So first of all, we are going to open our terminal, and once you open the terminal, as you can see, it recommends us to create this development folder under your home directory. So when you open your terminal, you are directly in your home directory, and when you write pwd here, the home directory path looks like this: /users /your username, right? Under this we need to create the development folder. To create the development folder, just write mkdir and then development and then press enter, and then you will be able to see this development folder under your home directory. So you can see that this development folder is created. So just copy this command, but we need to change this command a little. So I'm going to copy this command and paste it here. Let me just maximize this terminal. And here we need to make few changes. So because our Flutter zip file is located in the downloads folder and not in the development folder. So instead of this, what we need to do is we need to just write tilde forward slash downloads forward slash the name of your Flutter file, right? So if you write Flutter and then press tab on your keyboard, it's going to auto complete your file name, right? So the command in our case is this: unzip forward slash tilde forward slash downloads forward slash Flutter macOS and whatever the version of Flutter you have downloaded. So this might change in your case, and that's why I'm saying that you can use the autocomplete feature of your Mac terminal. So I'm going to just press enter here, and you can see it's unzipping this zip file. Once this zip file is unzipped in the development folder, let me clear the terminal and let's cd into our development folder. And here when you do ls, you will be able to see this Flutter folder here. So when you just go to your MacBook's desktop, you can see this go option here. Just click on home folder, which is going to open your home folder. In your home folder, you will be able to see this development folder, and then under development you have this Flutter folder, and under Flutter you have all these files. In the next step, we need to add the Flutter path to our environment variables. So if you are using newer versions of Mac, it supports ZSH on your terminal. So what you need to do is you just need to add this Flutter bin path in your ZSH env file, or you can also do the same in your ZSHRC file. So if you already have ZSHRC file, then you can add this path to ZSHRC file also. So in my case, ZSHRC file is already present. So let me just write cd here. So I'm in my home folder, and when I write ls space hyphen al, you will be able to see that I have this ZSHRC file, right? So you can add this path into the ZSHRC file also if you don't have the ZSHenv file. If you don't have ZSHenv or ZSHRC file, just create this ZSHenv file and then just paste this path there. In my case, I'm going to open the ZSHRC file. So I'm going to just write open, then dot ZSHRC here, and then press enter, which is going to open my ZSHRC, which already contains some other exports. I'm going to just add this new export at the bottom of this file, which is export path is equal to home forward slash development forward slash flutter forward slash bin colon dollar path. As you might already remember that you can see this path here, right? So this is our home folder, and then forward slash development, and our Flutter directory resides in the development folder, and we are going to put this path into our ZSHRC, which is the bin path. Inside this bin path, there is this Flutter binary which we are going to use once this environment variable is set. So once you have added this path, just save your file by pressing Command S and then close your file. So once you saved your file, just close your terminal. So just close your terminal, then open a new instance of your terminal. And once the terminal is open, you can run the Flutter command. So I'm going to just write Flutter here and then space hyphen hyphen version and then press enter, and it's going to show me the version of Flutter I have. So you can see it has shown me this kind of welcome to Flutter text here, and it's going to also show me the Flutter version which I have installed. Once you see this kind of output when you give Flutter version command, that means we have set the right environment variable for our Flutter binary. Now, once we have Flutter installed, then let's move to the next steps. So I'm going to scroll up a little and we are going to install the Xcode. So first of all, you need to open the App Store. You can find the App Store icon on the dock. This is the App Store icon, so just click on that. Or you can also search for App Store in your Launchpad and then click on that and App Store will start. From here, just search for Xcode and then press enter, which is going to search for Xcode. And the result which we are looking for is this one, which is called Xcode Developer Tools. Here I'm going to click on this download button. So in my case, it shows this warning which says download the older version of Xcode. The current version requires macOS 13.5 or later, but you can download the last compatible version. Because right now, if I click on the Apple logo and then click on about this Mac, I have the 13 version, not the 13.5. So I can download the older version. If you have the latest version of macOS, you can download the latest version of compatible Xcode. Here I'm going to click on download button, which is going to start the download of the Xcode. So you can see this download has been started. It's around 7 GB of download, so it will take some time for the download to complete. You can also go to the Launchpad and see the download process. Here you can see this download is going on. So it's going to download around 7 GB of data. So it'll take some time. So just wait for the download to finish. So once the download is complete, it's going to start the installation process. As you can see, when I hover over this circle, installation process is about 2% complete. So now the Xcode is installed on my Mac operating system. Once it's installed, you will be able to see open button in front of Xcode. Also in the launchpad, you will be able to see this Xcode icon. So I'm going to click on this Xcode icon. Let me minimize this App Store and then it's going to start the Xcode. So for the first time when Xcode starts on your Mac operating system, it's going to ask to agree with the license terms and conditions. So if you want, you can read these license terms and conditions and then click on agree. And then give your MacBook's password, which you use to log into your Mac operating system, and then press OK. And then you will be able to see this kind of window which says select the platforms which you would like to develop for. For now, I want to use it for macOS and iOS development. Later, I can also install the toolkit for watchOS or tvOS, but for now I don't want that. So I will just leave it as default and then click on install, which is going to start the installation of additional components. And you can see the progress bar of the installation. So at this point, I just need to wait for this progress bar to reach to the 100% mark. And once that's done, Xcode is going to launch in few seconds. So you can see Xcode has been started. First of all, it says what's new in Xcode, Xcode Cloud, Swift UI, and it's going to give you the list of all the features. I can click on continue here, and now Xcode has been started. Once you have Xcode, let's also install Android Studio. So first of all, open your favorite browser and search for Android Studio, and the first link which will appear here will be from developer.android.com. We are going to click on this link, and when this web page opens, you will be able to see straight away this download button on this web page. So we are going to click on this download button, which is going to show you this kind of terms and conditions page. You can read about these terms and conditions here and then scroll down at the very bottom where you need to agree with these terms and conditions. So if you agree, just check this checkbox, and then you will see two buttons here. So if you are using the MacBook or Mac operating system with Intel chip, then you can click on this button. If you are using the Mac operating system with the Apple chip for example M1, M2, M3 or any other Apple chip, then click on this button. So I have a MacBook with an Apple chip, so I'm going to click on this Apple chip button here, which is going to start the download of this DMG file. So you can see at the time of making this video, this file is around 1.1 gigabyte files, which is going to take some time to download. So just wait for the download to complete here. So once this DMG file is downloaded, I'm going to click on this DMG file and then I'm going to minimize this browser. So as you can see on this window, the installation process is really simple. You just need to drag this Android Studio icon into your applications folder. So if you are using your MacBook and its trackpad, you just need to press Command key on your keyboard and then select Android Studio and then drag and drop this icon on your applications folder, which is going to copy Android Studio into your applications folder. You can see this copying is done now. Once the copying is done, the Android Studio is installed on our Mac operating system, and then you can click on the launch pad and then search for Android Studio here. So I'm going to just search for Android Studio. You can see this icon is available here. So I'm going to click on this Android Studio icon, which is going to start the Android Studio on our Mac operating system. So first of all, you will see this kind of window which says import Android Studio settings. So if you are starting Android Studio for the first time, I will recommend you to just leave this radio button on do not import settings here and then click on OK. And then you will see this kind of window which says help improve Android Studio. I don't want to share any data with Google, so I'm going to click on don't send here. And you can see this kind of Android Studio setup wizard. So at this point, I'm going to click on next here. And then I'm going to choose the standard installation type. You can also choose the custom one, but I will recommend you to choose the standard one for now. And then click on next. And then you will see all these settings. So you can verify all these settings here. And then if you are happy with all those settings, click on next. And then on this next window, you will see this license agreement. So if you want, you can read these license terms and conditions. And if you agree with those license terms and conditions, click on accept here. And also select the second item here in this list, which is the SDK ARM, and then accept here also. Okay, so you need to accept in both the sections, one for Android SDK license and other for Android SDK ARM DBT license. Once you see this finish button, click on finish, which is going to start the download of all the components which Android Studio requires for its installation. So this setting up of components will only happen once when you start your Android Studio for the first time. So at this point, you just need to wait for a few seconds until this installation of all those components is going on. And now as you can see, after a few seconds, I can see this finish button here. So I'm going to click on this finish button, which is going to start Android Studio on my Mac operating system. So once your Android Studio starts, we are going to go to the plugins section here, and then we are going to search for Flutter here, and you will see this result for Flutter. So I'm going to click on install and then click on accept, which is going to install this Flutter plugin. In addition, it's also going to add the support for Dart. So Dart will also be installed. So I'm going to click on install here, and then it's going to install Flutter, and also it's going to install the Dart programming language. Once this is downloaded, it's asking me to relaunch the Android Studio. So I'm going to just click on restart IDE and then click on restart, which is going to restart my Android Studio IDE. Once my Android Studio IDE starts, I can see this new option here for creating a new Flutter project. So once you have installed the Flutter plugin here, let's open our terminal and let's run this command, which is called Flutter doctor command, and then press enter, and it's going to show you the status of all the tools. So when I run Flutter doctor command, I can see under Android tool chain that the command line tools component is missing here, right? So let's see how we can solve this problem. So for this, open your Android Studio, and then if you see this kind of interface, then select more actions and then select SDK manager, and then select Android's SDK option here, and you will be able to see this SDK tools option. And here you can see the Flutter doctor command is complaining about this option which says Android SDK command line tools, which is not installed yet. So we are going to just check this checkbox and then click on apply, and then click on OK, which is going to install the Android SDK command line tool. Once that's done, just click on finish, and now you can see this is installed and we can run the command once again. So I'm going to click on OK, and then once we run the Flutter doctor command once again, you can see that error is gone. So now I have one more warning here, but I don't see this command line tools component is missing error, right? So now I have one more warning here which says some Android license not accepted. So for this, I'm going to run this command which is suggested here. So for this, I'm going to run this command, which is flutter doctor space hyphen hyphen Android hyphen license. You can see this command I have already typed, which is flutter doctor Android license. Press enter and then press Y here and then press enter, and once again press Y and then press enter, and then just keep on pressing Y until this license terms and conditions is accepted, right? So once you see that all SDK package license accepted, I can run the Flutter doctor command once again, and this time I can see that Android toolchain is now fully installed. So now when I run the Flutter doctor command, I can see this Xcode error which says, and it says Xcode installation is incomplete. A full installation is necessary for iOS and macOS development. So to solve this, we just need to open the Xcode. I'm going to just search for Xcode and then open this Xcode. Once this Xcode opens, you will see the Xcode menu at the top. Just click on Xcode here and then select settings here. If you see preferences option, you can select the preferences option here. Once you do that, just select locations tab here. So select location tab. And here, if you see this command line tool empty, then select the version of Xcode. And it's going to ask you to provide your MacBook's password, which you use to log into your MacBook. So I'm going to just provide that password. And now I can see that this Xcode version is selected. Now let's run this Flutter doctor command once again. And now that error which we were seeing is gone, right? So now we have successfully installed the essential tools for Android development and also the essential tools for the iOS development. Earlier we were seeing this Xcode related error. Now we are just seeing this Cocoa pad not installed, that we will not require for now. So I'm going to leave it as it is, but other tools are installed, right? Now once Flutter SDK, Xcode and Android Studio are installed on our Mac operating system, now let's move to the Visual Studio Code. And for that, just open Visual Studio Code editor. And before doing anything here, we just need to install the extension for the Flutter. So here, click on this extensions tab and then search for Flutter. And the first extension which will appear here will be this one. This is the official app, and you can see this has been downloaded around 7.8 million times, and it's from dartcode.org. So we are going to install this extension. Just click on install, which is going to install this extension. And once this extension is installed, you can see this disable, uninstall, and switch to pre-release version, right? So now let's go to the Explorer section here. And here, once your Flutter extension is installed, you can create your Flutter project in several different ways, right? You can use the terminal to create your Flutter app. You can also use the command palette of Visual Studio Code to create your Android project. So let me show you first of all how you can use the command palette to create your Flutter app. For this, press Command Shift P on your keyboard, which is going to give you this kind of palette. Here, after this arrow, just write Flutter and then colon, and you will see this option here which says new project. Okay, so I'm going to click on new project option here. Now here it says select your template, so you can select the application template, empty applications template, skeleton, and other project options are also available. So I'm going to select the first option, which is the application template here, and then I need to choose the location where I want to save my project. So let's say I want to save my project into my documents folder. So I'm going to select my folder here and then click on select folder to create the project in. So I'm going to click here, and now you need to give your project name. Here I can see the default name for my project, which is Flutter application. I'm going to rename it to, let's say, my underscore Flutter underscore app. And the thing to remember here is I have given this name all in small letters, and they are separated by underscores, right? So if possible, just name your project in small letters, and if it contains multiple words, separate them by underscores. Once you have given the name to your project, just press enter as suggested here. So I'm going to press enter key on my keyboard and then click on save here. Then it's going to also ask you to provide the workspace option. From here I'm going to choose the same folder, for example. So I have created this my Flutter app, so I'm going to choose the same folder for creating this workspace, and you can see this Flutter app has been created, and you will see in some time this Flutter app will be populated with few different folders and files, right? So this is the template we have chosen, and that's why you will see all these files here, right? Now once our Flutter app is created, it already contains the sample code, so we just need to run this in an Android emulator or iOS emulator to test it, right? So for this, once again, you can press Command Shift P on your keyboard, which is going to open this kind of palette once again, and then colon, and then just write launch emulator. Okay, so this time we need to write Flutter colon launch emulator, and you will see this option which says Flutter colon launch emulator option. Click on this launch emulator option and you will see all these options here. So this iOS simulator and this other Android simulator are installed when you have installed the Xcode and the Android Studio on your Mac operating system, right? So if you have already installed Xcode and Android Studio, you will see both these options, right? When you have installed Xcode, this option is included in your Mac operating system for iOS simulator, and when you have installed Android Studio, this option has been installed on your Mac operating system for the Android emulator. So let's say first of all we want to run our app on iOS simulator. So we will choose iOS simulator here, which is going to start the iOS simulator here. You can see the iOS simulator is starting. Now once your iOS simulator has been started, let me resize this Visual Studio Code editor, and then let's move this simulator on the side. Let's run this app. You can run this app using this run option on the top. So just click on run option on the top and then click on run without debugging. I'm going to click on run without debugging option here. Now I can see this app has been launched on my iOS simulator, and I can test this app by pressing on this plus button and everything is working. I can also see this option here which says Dart Dev tool includes additional tools for debugging. I can click on open here, and then you can see open widget for inspector, open CPU profiler, and all these options here, right? So you can also choose these kind of options to debug your application. Now let's launch our app on the Android emulator also. For this, once again, press Command Shift P on your palette. So once we have tested the app on iOS simulator, I'm going to just press on this stop button to stop the application on the iOS simulator. And now let's run our application on the Android simulator. For this, just press Command Shift P and then once again choose Flutter launch emulator option. Now this time select the option which says Android at the end. Okay, so for example this option says Android at the end. This is the default emulator which comes with Android Studio, right? So I'm going to select this option here, and once I select this option, it's going to launch the Android emulator. You can see the Android emulator has been launched, and I can move this on the side, for example. And then let's run our app by just pressing run and then click on run without debugging. Now our app has been launched on this Android simulator. Okay, so once again we can just press on this plus button and everything is working fine, right? So we have tested our app on the Android simulator and the iOS simulator. Now let me show you one more option to create the project using command line and launch your app using command line on the Android emulator and the iOS emulator. So for this, I'm going to close both these emulators first. So let me close this one, and let me also close this iOS emulator, and then just quit from here. And then let me just close this project from here. Okay, and we are going to create a new project. So now I'm going to open a separate folder, and I'm going to show you how you can create a Flutter application using the Flutter commands. So here I'm going to click on open folder here, and then once again I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to name my folder as apps. So this is the folder where your Flutter app will be created, right? So this will be the parent folder where all your Flutter apps can be created. I'm going to click on create here and then click on open, which is going to open this Flutter app, right? So now let's say I want to use the terminal to create this project. So I'm going to just click on terminal, new terminal here. And because we have already installed the Flutter SDK and we have set the environment variables for Flutter SDK, in the terminal we can write Flutter space create and give the name of your app, right? Say I'm going to name my app as my underscore app underscore 2. This will be the second app, right? And then press enter, which is going to create your Flutter app. You can see this Flutter app has been created, and it has also created the sample template for us, right? Then you can read this output here. You just need to cd into your application and then run the flutter run command, right? So I'm going to cd into my app to folder here, and then I can run the flutter run command. But before this, I need to launch either the Android emulator or the iOS emulator. Once again, I can go to the Flutter documentation from where we have installed the Flutter SDK. And then when I click on the macOS option and iOS option, at the very bottom, you will also see the command using which you can launch your iOS emulator, and you can see this is the command. So you can also use this command once you have Xcode installed to launch your iOS simulator. So I'm going to just copy this command, then click on the spotlight option, and then just open the terminal from here. Once the terminal is open, I can just paste this command here and then press enter, which is going to launch the iOS emulator, right? So you can use this command also to launch your iOS emulator. And then once the emulator is open, let's run this Flutter app. Here you just need to run flutter run command. So I'm going to just write flutter space run and then press enter, and it's going to run this Flutter app on my iOS emulator. Just wait for a little bit. You can see the app has been launched on my iOS emulator. So using this command line tool also, you can create and run your app. Let me just press Control C here, close this application, and now I can just close this iOS simulator. Now if you want to launch the Android simulator, you need to open the Android Studio app. So go to the Launchpad and then search for Android Studio and then launch Android Studio from here. If you see this kind of interface here, click on three dots here and then click on Virtual Device Manager option. Let's say there is no project on your Android Studio, then you will be able to find this device manager option in more options here. So click on more options drop down menu and then click on virtual device manager, where you will see the virtual device. So just select the device here. One device will be present here. Also create multiple virtual devices using this device manager. So I'm going to launch the emulator from here, which is going to launch my Android emulator as I mentioned. And then I'm going to just minimize this, and once the Android emulator has been launched, I can just run the app using the same command, which is flutter run, and it's going to relaunch my application in the Android emulator now, right? I can see that the application has been launched this time on the Android emulator, right? This is how you can use Visual Studio Code to create your Flutter applications and launch them on iOS or the Android emulators. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next video.